Hello and welcome to the Content Advantage, a talk show about content for content professionals. I'm Scott Abel, and joining me today is my co-host Megan Gilhooly.
Hey Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. So I have to apologize in advance for any sniffles or coughs because I've been sick. I may be going after my inhaler at some point, so just ignore me if that happens, but it's very good to see you. So I want to introduce our wonderful guest. Janice Cadel is the Director of Technical Publications for Shiji. Janice, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having me here, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you. I feel fine. I just don't sound perfect yet, so we'll get there.
She's getting there, though. She's a trooper, so we're going to make it through. And speaking of making it through, for the audience members who just joined us, in case you've not used Break Talk before as a webinar platform, here's a few things to know. First of all, today's show is being recorded, so you can return anytime after the show is over and access the same link that you're using to watch today's live show, and it will take you to a landing page with a recording that you can watch and finish up the show if you have to leave early, or you can share with others on your team if you need to. Also, we can't see or hear you, which means you don't have to worry about your microphone or your camera during this show. Also, you can ask a question of the presenter at any time by clicking the Ask a Question tab located underneath your webinar viewing panel. That will open up a little chat window, which will allow you to text us a question. We won't be able to text you back an answer. It's just kind of a queue for us. So as you submit them, we'll queue them up and we'll ask as many as possible of Janice with the time that we have available on today's show. Additionally, there's content provided, including access information, so how you can contact Janice Cadel, our guest today, and also some content provided by our sponsor, Zoomin software, and some troubleshooting information in case you were to have any technical difficulties. You can access all of that from the attachments tab in your webinar viewing panel.
Great. All right, let's get started. So Janice, we want to know a little bit about you. So can you tell us about yourself and your connection to today's topic, which is turning product content into a strategic advantage?
Sure. So I've been in the technical documentation industry for more years than I'm going to divulge here. And, starting out as a technical writer and then working my way into the management side. So I've managed global teams for several different types of companies in, telecommunications, content management, and now and for several years in the hospitality IT industry. And I'm currently the Director of Technical Publications at Shiji, which is a global company in the hospitality IT sector. And in that role, I am responsible for the documentation that we provide to our customers, which are in the hospitality industry, such as hotels and golf and spa and similar type of customers. And I think that should do it.
Scott, I can't hear you.
All right, let's see what's happening to
There you go.
Are you there?
Yep.
Okay. I don't even have a cold. All right, so I was wondering, could you tell our viewers the kinds of content that you might produce with your team and for whom?
Sure. So we have a variety of different audiences. So the content we go with both internal and external. So we have internal team, audience for people that are going to implement the software. For example, property management systems or point of sales. Point of sales when you go to a restaurant, and that's what used to be called a register, but now it's a lot more involved. And so the team that needs to know how to set that up for our customers. We also have the customers themselves, the people that are going to be using the property management system that's in hotels, or the point of sale at the restaurant itself. And then we also deal with people who are going to help us sell our application. So they need information. Another type of audience is, as you know, people use things like you're going to make a reservation, you're going to use a reservation service. So we connect to those, whether you're doing a reservation at a hotel or whether you're doing a reservation at a restaurant, we connect to those different applications. So our documentation is written for the people that need to make that connection, to make sure that it's seamless for the customer.
That's a lot of audiences to serve.
That
Yes,
is.
yes, it is.
How do you serve? Do you customize all of your content, or do you kind of try and you reuse across all those different audiences?
We do a combination of both. So there's times when you can reuse information because you have contextual information where you're kind of explaining why someone needs to know this information or what this information is. And then you also have the how-to. How do I do it? So we do, we may reuse. So we look at what's called single sourcing so that we can reuse content. Or then there's stuff that definitely needs to be personalized for that particular audience. And we have ways in which we are able to do that in how we write it, but also more importantly in how we present it. Because it's more important for the customer to get the information so that they can find what they're looking for.
And which of course is the end goal and the big one with your challenges with all those audiences. And when you publish content to multiple audiences, it's already challenging enough, right? There's a lot of moving pieces to get right. But what content challenges are you currently tackling, and why are you trying to accomplish those, kind of overcome those obstacles?
So we want to make sure that we are getting the right information to the right people. And so that's always a challenge, to make sure that we have in our case, we have taxonomy set up to try to put our information into organize our information correctly, but then to make sure that the right audience is getting it, so that number one, that they know it's out there. That's important. Once they know it's out there, to make sure that we face the challenge of them being able to find it easily and to look for, so that they don't spend a lot of time searching. Because usually if you're looking for information, it's because you need that information. You're not out, most people are not just reading for the fun of reading.
We wish, right? Writers
Yeah.
wish that people read for the fun of reading, but I don't think that's their goal when they take off and they try to go to our support center. What's the challenge that I think when we had our planning call, you discussed also another challenge, that you discovered that there was content that wasn't there. Like there was content you should have had that you didn't have. And how are you tackling that? And how did you learn which pieces you were missing?
Right. So, as in any case in documentation, it's born out of what you have to find out what people need. And so, when I came here, there was documentation, but a lot of times it was a little bit harder to find. It wasn't in one location, or it was written in a way that, it may focus on a particular functionality at the time. So we had to do a lot of different research and kind of looking at what's missing, if I'm a customer, take a look from the customer perspective, whether it's the internal customer or the external customer, what is missing, and do an analysis on, do they have all the information they need to know to do their job? So we performed an analysis to look at that. And then we had to determine, how are we going to get this information out there? There's a lot of information that you need to get out there. So we started to prioritize what's the most important thing, what someone's going to look for first. And so, those are kind of like the steps we took to really, again, sort of identifying who our audience is and seeing where these gaps are. And, and the gaps included being able to find the information too.
Yeah, of course. It's a big ask when you start to think about it. It seems easy at first. Oh, we'll just make some new content, whatever we need. Well, how do we know what we need?
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
It seems like you went through all the right steps to get there.
Yeah, it's so important to do that research up front. Once you got the information back, what kinds of changes did you make to the way your teams author, manage, and deliver content to really help your customers?
Right. So one of the things I know tools, they do come into play, because we want to be able to, as I mentioned before, single source. We wanted to be able to reuse information. And the best way to do that that I found was to, in my opinion, use an Oxygen, or not Oxygen. Well, we use Oxygen, but to use an XML authoring using the data methodology, because we chose to go with Oxygen because I just personally found that was an easy application for people to learn if they were not familiar with authoring in data, and that gave us a chance to break our information, make it topic-based. So as I mentioned before, we have, in topic-based, you have things, the contextual information that's going to provide that. And you have the steps, the how-to, the tasks, and you have reference material. And, think of it as you can take the different pieces, it's puzzles. You could take them, the topics, and put them all together as a puzzle and make sure this is the right, this is the right puzzle outcome for the implementation team. And this is the right, puzzle outcome for the customer. And so that's, that was our approach to, looking at the right tools to increase our productivity so that we can best serve our customers.
Nice. I imagine the data implementation helped you also hit these different personas that you're trying to target too, right?
Right. Like I said, so you're able to reuse content and at the same time, again, personalize it for the right persona.
On this show, we talk a lot about one particular word, which is becoming increasingly more important, I think, today, which is taxonomy. Can you talk to us about the role that taxonomy plays in helping you to accomplish the goals that you're trying to?
Yeah, we invested actually quite a bit of time into our taxonomy, and it was a learning process for all the writers involved, because you had to really think about what is the right taxonomy. Looking at, we have a variety of applications. So looking at the different applications, and then, again, looking at all the different customers, and then what type of information they need. And we wanted to make sure that we broke it down the right way, thinking about how somebody is going to search for something. So, what words they need to know to search. So are they somebody who's, going to look for troubleshooting information, knowing that we needed to identify that within our taxonomy? Are they someone who's going to need to know just how to configure something? And, so we had many sessions where, with a lot of conversation to make sure that we were not going down a rabbit hole, and doing, hitting that, not too much, not too little, but just right level of taxonomy. And we continue to refine it. It's an ongoing process.
Well, before we go on, I want to remind the audience members that you can ask a question of Janice at any time by using the Ask a Question tab located in your webinar viewing panel. It's just below, I think, the viewing area that you're watching the show on. And you can text us a question, and we'll have Janice answer as many as possible with the time that we have available. And speaking of questions, I know Megan has another one for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of questions, somebody asked specifically about what you were just talking about, and I thought we might hit that a little more in detail. So, with regards to the taxonomy, did you organize the taxonomy around personas, then product features, or did you start with product version, or how did you sort of organize that taxonomy? What were the different levels?
I think if I break it into 3 main levels, we did it by product, because again, we have a lot of applications, but within the applications themselves, they have, some of them have smaller applications. Like if I talk about, we have a golf and spa application, but within it, there's an application specifically for golf, or there's an application specifically for spa and members. So that's one way we kind of had to look at it. But then they have had other applications that have more modules, and we had to think about, again, how a customer was going to, do we want to go so far down the module list, or do we want to keep it at a higher level? And then we looked at roles, and that's when we're going with the personas, like who are the roles, who are the people that are going to be using the content. So maybe, the implementation team, that's a role there, or within our end user customers, do we want to go so far down within the hospitality industry, and do we go so far down to like a restaurant between a server or a bartender, or do we want to keep it at a higher level? And we realized that, people cross their jobs, so we kept it at a little higher level and put it at staff. So we had to really think about each, like as I said, it took some time, so we had to think about each one. And then the last one is the type of content. Like, what type of content are we providing? Are we providing configuration guides in this case? Are we providing installation content? Are we providing, as I said, troubleshooting, or what else is there? There's, how is somebody going to search for it and really understand if they want something specific? So those were like I said, the main top 3 levels that way were product, role, and how someone's going to use it. But then there's some other ways that we had to think about, and that could be global. We have customers all over the world. So we may have content that's specific for Germany or that we only want people in Germany to access it. What makes sense for somebody in France to access it? It's not relevant to them. So we looked at that and added that to our taxonomy. And then just access in general, like, how do we want to control what people can see? Because we don't want everyone to see everything. So we had the taxonomy organized by our access rights.
Got it. And was this all done internally, or did you have external help on this?
So because we implemented Zoomin, we did have training from Lawrence at Zoomin on taxonomy. He did. Several of us attended his training for several sessions for us to learn it, and then we worked together internally with Zoomin to help us.
Very nice.
Excellent. Can you talk just briefly about how you utilize role-based personalization to help the audience understand how they might do the same thing? I'm assuming you're talking about job roles or roles your customers may play when they're looking for information. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's kind of both ways. So we use it so as I said, we have the taxonomy that is role-based. So we'll use it to help somebody look for information in terms of being able to filter and find information that's specifically for them. But we also look for it so that they're only finding information that is appropriate to them. So again, if I am a customer working on a particular application and I need to know how to configure it, they're able to find that information because of the way in which we tag something. They can, if they're looking for a customer from concept, they are able to look for that and say, I need configuration information. We have a role in there for a customer IT type of person, so they can find it, and it's tailored just specifically for their needs.
And are you kind of moving the brush out of the way, so to speak? There's so many things that they might encounter. You're trying to help them navigate to it by pushing away the things that are not necessarily aligned with their role.
Yes. So I am trying to, again, we're trying to narrow their search. It's the same thing. You go to, think of it like Google.
Yeah.
You're going to put a search in, and it doesn't help if you're going to get, 5,000 results. So we want to narrow their results. So if they're, if they look for content through searching, that's one way. We also have things set up in how we on our site so they can easily find information based on what they're looking for. So it's role based again. If I could find, I am looking for this type of information based on my, based on what I need and my role. The same thing, the product, the role, and the type of information.
Very nice.
Thank you for that. This seems like a great time to make a connection to today's sponsor and talk a little bit about how Zoomin software can actually provide this kind of role-based assistance. Megan, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about Zoomin and what the software does?
Yes, absolutely. So Zoomin's platform ingests technical product content from any source. It doesn't matter if it's structured or unstructured, where it was created or published, and we deliver it into a modern documentation portal. We deliver it inside your community. We deliver it into a customer service site or CRM, and even into your web-based product itself. And so in that way, as in Shiji's case, we make it easy for people to quickly and easily find the answers that they need based on their role.
Excellent. And just to let people know, in the attachments section of your webinar viewing panel, you can access information about Zoomin, and you can click right through to their website and learn some more about the software. Janice, I've got a question for you now that we've had our intermittent commercial break there for just a second. Could you talk to us about success? What does success look like to you for your team?
So success for our team is to make life easiest for our customers. So in our terms, to know that our customers know that they have a place to go to find the information that they need so that they can do their job. So once I know that we have the information out there in a format that they can, again, easily find, but they can also easily use depending on whatever type of content, so that they are successful in what they're trying to accomplish, or they're successful in able to solve a problem that they need to solve. And that's what I see as success. If what we do is seamless without a thought to our customers, thinking that we even did any work to get there, then I see that as success.
That's awesome. So we like to talk a lot about metrics and analytics.
Oh, yeah.
What kinds of key performance indicators are you tracking to ensure that success? What are you looking at to know to sort of quantify that success?
Sure. So in a few days will be our 1-year anniversary with Zoomin. We launched on June 30th last year.
Yay.
And yay. And what we're looking at is to see our growth. And it's been what I've noticed, because I look at the analytics all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I see growth in our amount of users, because we're able to track our amount of users. I see growth in the different types of users, because I can see, it's good to see that our internal team, our Shiji team, is using it, and it's great to see that our customers are using it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tracking about how many people are registering. So who want to register, you're able to see additional information. We're tracking to see what people are looking at and how often. So I keep seeing growth in the amount of views, in the growth in particularly in how much we're uploading, because that's showing that we're adding more and more content. So each week I see that growth in our publications and the number of topics, and again, where people are looking at information. So I know that we're not just in one location, it's global. I have access. So it's showing that we are making a difference. We are out there. People know we're here. People are using us. And I'll continue to do that. I'm looking forward to seeing more feedback. Hopefully positive, but I want to see feedback to make sure that we are hitting the mark.
Sure. Well, that data that you discussed is just a gold mine as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. For years, we've struggled with technical communication and product information developers saying, I wish I knew more. And I think you just pointed out that there's two kinds of metrics maybe more than two, but two main big buckets. One is internal. You're actually able to see now how much your content team is providing to the system to make it richer and easier for people to find the information they need. And then you're also able to monitor some of the activities of the people who consume the content to figure out, are you doing the right things? And to me, this is like the sweet spot. So tell me, how do you sell the value to management of adding a delivery platform like this? Is it these metrics that we're talking about that you can build a story around to kind of talk about why the technical communication team is kind of the hero in this story, and look at what we're doing, trying to shepherd this information to the right people and make their experience better? Or are there other ways that you try to sell the value? How do you sell the value to leadership?
Well, I was lucky in that my leadership, my direct leadership and the executive leadership, I have their support. I had their full support. They let me come to the table. They listened to what I had to say, and they grew to understand, and really they were invested in it, and showing that we have this, if we take our documentation that we can reuse and we can personalize, we can improve our productivity, and at the same time, we could deliver content that's easy for our customers to find, and here's the analytics to show all that. So it wasn't a difficult sell. It was actually it was something that, you know, there's always a little bit of challenge, but it worked out well because they saw there is value, and everything is branded Shiji, and it's another way of marketing all our applications. They look at it, it's consistent, everything is consistent, it looks the same, it's Shiji, it shows that Shiji is, you know, has quality and content and cares about their customers.
Very nice. You're very lucky to have that support ahead of time. So if you put yourself in the shoes of someone that maybe is in a different position where they don't have that support, now that you've been through what you've been through, how would you suggest they go about getting that support? Do you have any ideas?
Oh, that's a good question.
So what I would suggest is you have to do the homework. You have to do the homework to show why this is important. And I did the homework. I worked hard because, you know, outside of technical documentation, outside of the content industry, most of the, you know, focus is on getting development in there, and they understand that, but they learn that technical documentation is really part of the you know, it is part of the product. You can't just sell something without explaining why it's good and how to use it. And so I did a lot of research to kind of show that, and to show that the easier we make it for the customers to find the information they need, including even in their language that they need it, is best for everyone all around. So that's what I would say is do your research, show your ROI by, you know, going out there and you know, showing how somebody actually saves money by making it easier for the customer to get to information, and can actually even then use this as a marketing tool for future customers.
Awesome. So you know, there's one thing that I know just because I'm sort of so close to this, and that is that when you actually launched the site, your marketing team did an amazing job at socializing it. And I remember seeing in the feed customers coming back. I'm not entirely sure if they were, I think they might have been property managers, and they may have been any one of them, but they were coming back saying, this is going to be such a value add for us. And so that's a really big anecdote to go back to your management with.
Right. And typically in the hospitality industry, their customers do, you know, people do provide them with information, but it's a little bit harder. So we went with a way to make it easier for them to find content, not having a lot of old PDFs lying around, being emailed. So we made sure that, again, that they could always be assured that they're going to have the most up-to-date information. They don't have to worry about having older content, and that they know that when there's a new version out there, that all they need to do is look at the documentation and to see what's changed and what do they need to do to implement this change, if they need to even do anything.
Bringing all this content together in one place is like always the dream, I think, for many technical documentation teams. But some companies still don't seem to get it. Can you help technical communicators who are watching today's show understand what's the benefits to the company and to the users of bringing all this content together into one portal with one kind of navigation and one look and feel and voice? What are you getting from this, and what could other companies get from it as well?
So what I see is that, again, people are busy. They're trying to do their jobs. They have a job to do, and to make them struggle to find information is not fair to them. So by having everything in one place, I keep calling it a one-stop shop. It's the mega store of documentation, but it's not so overwhelming because we've made it easy for them to find what they need by organizing it, just directly looking at our site, just directly. They have different ways that they can navigate to get information by providing them with easy ways to filter information, easy ways to search on information. And I think that this, again, the end result is always to make life easier for your customers. And this one-stop shop that is easily accessible and easily navigatable is really what brings the value to them. And it also shows that Shiji cares and that we value content, and we value, as much as we value making sure that our applications are working, for them and giving them what they need in terms of to do their jobs that way too.
That's brilliant. I mean, it's more than lip service, right? It's kind of like lots of companies can say that, but it's in your actions that prove whether you're actually really customer focused or not. And before Megan asks some questions from the audience, I wanted to say there are 3 tweetable moments that you basically just said in the last few minutes, I think, that were really good.
Okay.
First, setting up a one-stop shop for customers is like a mega store of documentation, which I thought was really cool. And that documentation is part of the product and is also marketing, which I think is it's our trends that we're starting to realize. Megan and I have been, evangelizing this idea for a while now.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're actually finding that this is true. These are actually things that we should know as technical communicators. So is it true that documentation is marketing, and is Shiji starting to kind of see the impact of that?
Yeah, I think so. And that's why, that's why we have public content. It's because of the platform that it's on with Zoomin. You Google it. If somebody was to Google point of sale, I'm hoping that, and we've actually, worked with Shiji, and we've worked with our team to make sure that Shiji's point of sale product called Emphasis comes up, in the top search when someone's just Googling it, so that they may start off on Google, but hopefully they're going to end up on the documentation center. And that's our goal, is that our customers are out there, that they learn more about Shiji, and that we have these products that we can offer them, and take it from there. Then they can contact us, and hopefully we can continue to grow.
Very cool. I'm going to steal a line from a former CEO I had. We brought in Zoomin, kind of did the same thing you did. And then about a year and a half later, the CEO stood up in front of the entire company and said, product content is the new marketing. And I love that phrase.
Applause.
Exactly. It's so cool. But I have a couple questions from the audience. I want to dive into one of them, and I'm going to kind of add to the question a bit. So the question is, how have you organized your documentation team to best create and manage the different types of content Shiji produces? And then I'm going to add to that, how has the author experience been making this transition?
So we organize the team. I'm a big believer in, not having a single point of failure, but necessity sometimes works a little bit against that. So we do have the team organized by product, and they actually become product experts. But what I like to do is I keep that communication open, so that even though, one person may be working on like this point of sale, and somebody else might be working on the golf and spa, we're always communicating in case there's ever a way that somebody needs to jump in and help out. And we will do that. And I'm trying to remember the rest of your question here.
The rest of the question was what the author experience has been like making this transition.
I think they've really enjoyed it. It's great that, again, a lot of them came in and they weren't familiar with authoring and data. So they've learned how to do it, and they've seen how that actually it makes, in terms of productivity, easier, because they reuse content a lot, like down to something as simple as steps. You may be repeating the same login, step over and over again. So you may have 3 steps. So they're able to reuse it. And then by the fact that we're able to publish, we have dynamic publishing, they can see how something looks. So they can quickly review their content, just in terms of the output, and see that, is this working? And so I know that they feel they've learned a lot, and they feel that their productivity has gone up. I can tell you that one of the authors, because I was just kind of looking at how many documents he works on, is 25 simultaneously, and he's able to do it successfully, and he's not killing, he's not putting in an excessive amount of hours. I mean, he's working normal hours. So
can I ask you a question about that? That's not something that I had thought about until just now, but it seems like this is a powerful tool for a technical documentation manager because you have insights into the work that one individual is responsible for, which you probably knew because you assigned them to do this work. I mean, you're responsible for this, but now you get to know where are they in the process. And so I wondered if those metrics have helped you understand I want to say like content scoring. And here's what I'm thinking. In the Olympics, you do a dive, the Summer Olympics, and they judge you based on the difficulty of the dive. And then that factors into, what kind of score you get. It seems to me that you could be working on 25 topics and the guy or gal next to you in a different cubicle or a different place remotely could be working on another 25, but there might be somebody on the other side who's only working on 5. And it looks like the person who's working on 5 things isn't doing as much as the people that are working on 25. But what if you understood the difficulty of the 5 things that were assigned to that particular writer? Maybe it takes more energy to get all the information from the subject matter experts and, that kind of thing. Does this help you kind of level the playing field and figure out who's actually working on what and whether you're using their time wisely? Is that how you're using the metrics?
It actually does. I am, by having this dynamic publishing, by able to see what people are working on with, when because they're going to write something and they're going to see what it looks like and they're going to publish to the development site. I'm able to see it. I'm able to peek in it. So even if they're not sharing it with me, I know it's there. And so I am able to see what they're doing, but it also gives me an opportunity to provide feedback to them. I'm also, in addition to being able to provide, to use it as, where do they maybe need help with their ability to time manage, or are they working on something that's too complex? It also gives me that chance to provide just general feedback on the content itself.
Yeah,
I also know that you get, based on the popularity, the popularity freshness matrix that you have in your analytics, that I think would be a great tool to be able to go in and say, what are they working on that I could take off their plate? Because it's really not a very popular topic. So we don't necessarily need to do it very quickly, that kind of thing. Do you do a lot of that as well?
We look at that in terms of, because we have some legacy content, with Zoomin, as I mentioned that these authors are writing in data, but that's not all our content that we publish, because we're able to publish content in Word and PDF and other things that are not written by technical writers. And so we also, wanted to make sure that we had some legacy content. It may be something that's a little older. So we're able to look at that and see if anyone's even looking at that and make some decisions on that. And, the same thing with, we could look at, as time goes on, we're still so new, like it'll be a year. I think we need to spend a little bit more time before we really take a good look at what people aren't looking at, and then make those decisions. Right.
Megan, you brought up a vocabulary word that maybe some of the people on the show might not know what that means. And I was asking you maybe if you could talk a bit just about what did you mean by the freshness score that you asked Janice about?
Yes, that's true. It is something that is somewhat built by Zoomin probably. So the freshness score is really how recently has it been updated? And the popularity is really a measure of how many people are viewing it. And we have a matrix that creates a 2x2 and pits freshness against popularity. So you can see what, excuse me, what is not fresh, but not being viewed, what is really fresh, but not being viewed, what is being viewed a lot, but not fresh, and then what's in that sort of upper right quadrant, which is the ideal, very fresh content that's very popular.
Excellent. And Janice, do you feel like that kind of data, as you said, will become more valuable to you over time because you're so new to it that it will, be interesting to track kind of history? What happens after 2 years? What happens after 3 years? Because as that content ages, the freshness score might change.
Right. I feel like we're too much in the infancy, but because we're so busy looking at it and trying to figure out, is it us? And I've seen a difference just from, the first couple of months was definitely just us looking at the same time. Same thing with the search. But yes, I think as time goes by, I can see it now. Like I can see a little bit now, but I don't want to pull the trigger on saying we should remove this. But I could see that in the coming year or so, saying, hey, there's this content here, and no one has looked at it ever. So,
yeah, should we keep investing in it, right?
Yeah.
Or should we figure out why people can't find it? There's probably two questions asked there. Is it relevant is one, and then can people even find it is another. And speaking of questions, Megan, I know there's some popping into the chat room that we're anxious to get to. Do you want to try to tackle one?
Yes, absolutely. So somebody asked, what quality metrics are you using to measure the effectiveness of your taxonomy? So what process do you use to improve the taxonomy based on those metrics?
That's the search. So if we see that people are searching on a term over and over again, because there are metrics on search, then we may need to go back and look at our taxonomy and say, do we need to make this easier for somebody by adding this into the taxonomy, by having a filter on it? So that's what, where we're making those decisions.
Very nice. And I think to add to that, one of the biggest metrics I see that is crucial for this is what is it that people are searching for that you don't have in your content, right? That can be a big flag that maybe you missed something in the taxonomy.
Excellent. With that, I know we have one more question here from the audience members, and we've got a couple of seconds, so if you want to submit one at the last minute, you're welcome to do so by clicking the Ask a Question tab located in your webinar viewing panel. The next question we have is kind of some advice that somebody would like to get from you. They would like to know, would you recommend the portal or unified content approach to users who are only a small fraction of your product compared to the level of detail and range of information needed for maybe a bigger audience like IT or developers? So is it worth it to invest in kind of targeting a small group of people as compared to the larger group?
Well, I think it is, because again, it doesn't matter how many customers you have or how many users you have. You want those users to be able to find information as easily as possible. So, even if we had a small, so one of the things when I came on board was that how we did our work was important, but more important was making our content available as easily as possible. So, again, we're growing. Our customers are just sort of finding this right now, and it is a smaller group that is using it. And hopefully, as we grow, our customer base grows, and it'll be a larger group that starts to use it.
It seems like hidden in that message there, or just kind of not as obvious, might be the fact that once you set up the capability to deliver personalized information to a role or based on a product or access or whatever it is that you want to use as a limiting factor, once you develop that capability, you can repeat it over and over again, regardless of the size of the segment of the audience. So it gives you the ability to actually serve that smaller audience and serve the bigger audiences at the same time by using taxonomy to help control which persons see which information. Do you see it that way? Is that you get this capability now, and once you've got it, you can build it out for whatever purposes you need?
Right. Yeah, because we have, as I said, even internally, we have things set up for groups within the company. So that's a small sector that's part of a larger, sector, and they're able to use the site to find the information that they need. They know. When you work in a company and you're just trying to find out, something, whatever it is you're trying to look for, your sales, our sales enablement team, they need to be able to find information that they learn about the sales process or what they need to tell their customers. So that's a small sector that can use this, as well as the larger group that maybe finding other information that's a little bit broader for, more groups.
It seems like it's kind of a small sector, but an important one. And so you're able to target the importance of the content to the right group of people and give them what they need, regardless of whether there's 3 of them or 300 of them.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that we're talking about a portal where if I'm a developer, let's say, and I go into a portal, I'm going to be part of a content role group that allows me to see the APIs that are brought in from Swagger. But if I'm an end user, I'm not going to necessarily see those APIs that are brought in from Swagger. So I think that's a little bit of what this question is getting to, in that you can come to one portal and it can seem like it's a portal just for developers because everything related to developers is what Surface is to you. Or you can come to the same portal as an end user, and because of your role, you get a different set of information.
Right, correct. Depending on your access is what you can see. So, you know, if you're a third party developer and you need to integrate and you need the API, well, we're not going to let you see the APIs for every single application. It's for the ones that, you know, that we've determined with user management, you have the right to see. And even as the public person comes in, you're only going to see a small segment of the content.
Even if it weren't about rights, this just seems like a really smart approach, because of the more that we understand about humans and their brains, and, you know, with all of us in this grand experiment having to stay home for a year and use these tools more religiously than we did in the past, perhaps, we're starting to see neuroscientists talk about the importance of not overloading people with information that's not germane for whatever it is they're supposed to do, simply because the human brain finds it taxing and then turns into like, oh, this is not a good experience. Even if the content is great, if it's too much and it's overwhelming and not relevant to them, it could be perfectly typed, no grammar or punctuation errors. It could meet the sentence leak requirements of quality content, but still not be relevant. So it seems like you're really pushing on relevance. How can I get the relevant information to the person at the time that they need it? And to me, this is like an applause thing for all TechCom managers that are trying to do this. I know how challenging it is, but it seems like you're on the right path. Do you feel like Shiji as a company starts to recognize, wow, this is working? Or is it just your team, you know, because we're always so close to our content as content professionals?
Well, I think they are starting to, and another way we're doing it, which will hopefully they'll recognize it, is we're putting in what are called metro maps. So basically it's like a workflow that somebody would click on. So if I was, you know, an example of the sales enablement person, and I'm selling this product called Concept, I would click it on and it would take me through, you know, this workflow, this little train of what I need to read. So I think as we start to add more functionality and the ability for people to find the information, I think that the company as a whole will start to recognize the value too, and see, hey, this is, you know, this is great. We're getting the right information to the right audience, and we're making it easier for them to find it.
And I think that is what we all want. And you know what? We're users sometimes too. And I think we sometimes have to put our hat on that we're the customer. What would it feel like to get the right information at the right time, just when you need it, and not have to filter through a lot of nonsense? And I think we've all been there. Megan, if you could ask one more question of Janice before time remains, do you have anything that you'd like to ask her?
Yes, I do. So you mentioned the metro maps. What else are you looking to for the future?
Oh, yes, metro maps.
So what I'd like to do, we have some of this functionality in there, but I'd like to continue to improve on it, is people learn differently. You know, some people need to read, but some people do better with videos, and the short ones, not, you know, hour long, but, you know, 1 to 2 minute videos. So I'd like to enhance our content with some more videos. We do have webinars that we're able to post on there that are a little bit longer, but, you know, to also put in these little short videos to say, you know, that complement the written content. So if you're somebody who is better at you know, you're a YouTube generation person, then that's what you might go to. Whereas, you know, where me, I might rather read something. So those are, you know, I want to look at the learners out there. And, you know, there might be, you know, as time goes on, I want to know what makes it easier for for each different individual to again get the information they need to do their job.
I like that. I wonder if we would call that like preferences metadata. I prefer, if you have one, for you to show me videos when you have them, as opposed to I'm learning better. Or maybe it's like, I prefer this, so why don't you respect my preferences? And then as long as that preference could be toggled on or off, someone could make a decision whether that was a smart, kind of thing to activate or not. But I totally see why you could do that, and it would be really powerful.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that'll have to be the last word today. Thanks to Janice Cadel for making time to be on our show today. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you to the audience for being here as well. Keep an eye in your inbox for a surprise guest on our next show, July the 6th. We'll be sending you an email really soon. You'll probably also see some social promotions. So be on the lookout for that. And then we've got a jam-packed calendar for the rest of 2021 as well.
Yes.
And speaking of that, we've got July 20th. We're going to be talking with Patrick Bozek about the role of content operations in modern technical documentation shops. That's going to be actually myself and Megan chatting with Patrick. And Megan and I will also be chatting with Jennifer Kaufman at NetApp about how to make an invisible tech comm team visible to the people that it might matter most to. So hopefully you'll join us for those shows. I know Megan and I are super excited to bring you these guests and illuminate what they have to say.
Yes, absolutely. So big thank you, Janice. Really appreciate it. Scott, thanks as always. Thanks to everybody watching. Before you sign off, I want to make sure everybody tells us what you thought about today's show. So use the Rate This tab. It's located in your webinar viewing panel. Give us a 1 to 5 star rating. Definitely fill in the comment box. We read every single comment. We really want to make sure that we are tailoring this show to what's valuable to you. So definitely do that. And Janice, thanks again. Huge thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's my pleasure.
And our audience members should also know that if you've got an idea or a suggestion for a future topic or a guest you'd like to see on a future episode, shoot us an email and let us know. We're happy to try to recruit those folks and bring them on the show and have them share with you what they know and their best practices and lessons learned. So you've been watching the show, The Content Advantage. Today's show has been recorded. Shortly after we sign off, a link that you're using now to watch the program live will be sent to you in an email as a reminder that you can click on it later and watch a recording of today's show. You can even share that with others if you'd like. On behalf of myself and my co-host, Megan Gilhooly, thank you for making time to watch our show today. We hope that you join us for an upcoming episode. Until then, I hope you'll be safe, be well, and keep doing great work. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Ensure your customers find the answers they need with Zoomin. Bring together product content from all teams and sources to deliver a unified, personalized content experience. Check us out at www.zoominsoftware.com.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.